Today, we're talking about something that, if you're like most people, makes you feel uncomfortable just to hear the word. No, it's not really kinky sex. We're talking about that next weekend. Today, we're talking about boundaries, what they are, how to have them, how to listen to them and accept them from a partner, and make sure you stay to the end, because then we're talking about what to do if a boundary that you set has been violated. Let's dive in. I'm Christopher Gill, and I've spent time thinking about relationships, studying them. I want to be your best friend, your brother, your daddy, and I hope that we can continue growing and talking about anything. Let's dive in. So first off, what are boundaries? Well, I think boundaries very simply are a way of communicating something that is important to you, setting a line in the sand and saying, hey, if we are going to be in a close community, in a close relationship, I need these things honored and respected. No, you don't have to agree with them. No, you don't even have to totally understand them. But because you love me, you have to respect and not violate these things that I'm asking of you. And of course, this extends to way beyond just intimate relationships, right? Boundaries need to be expressed and followed in any relationship. So I think getting good at them in the safest of containers, right, with someone who loves you the most, who wants to do the most for you, hopefully that will set a good tone and tenor for you to be able to do this all throughout your life with your parents, with your friends, with your boss, with your employees. There needs to be boundaries everywhere, because a boundary gives us a framework to work in that I think is very important for ensuring the long-term success of the relationship, which is preventing resentment from building over time. And resentment over days, months, years leads to something that may be an explosion and may be an angry fight, or it can lead to total apathy and a desire to even try in the relationship anymore. You can have told yourself a story over years of resentment that, man, this person just does not care about me anymore. They keep doing these things. But instead of checking in with yourself and saying, hey, am I expressing to them that I don't like these things? Am I expressing it to them in a way that's actionable, that they understand? You don't do that. You bury it. You just kind of hold on to those emotions, and resentment forms. So I am trying to prevent resentment from forming in all of my relationships that I care about, that I want to see successful, and I want to help you do the same. And boundaries are one huge part of doing that. Well, first off, they allow you to just express things that you like and don't like, and give people a line to work up to, or to figure out, hey, this is something that I need to honor if I want to be in close relationship with this person. You may be saying, well, I guess I don't really have any boundaries, and that's not true, A. And B, the reason you feel like that is because you haven't sat and thought through what you would express to someone if you were setting a boundary. Think about that for a second. So if you feel like, hey, I don't have any boundaries, I don't really know what I would express, that's because you have not taken the time to think through what you would express. It doesn't mean that those feelings aren't there. You just need to work to a place of being able to verbalize them. You probably know the old adage that one of the best ways to learn something is to teach it, and one of the best ways to learn what works for you and what doesn't in a relationship is to teach it to someone else by setting proper boundaries. So first off, boundaries just help you get clear on what you want and need, and what you don't want and what you don't need in a relationship. Secondly, it allows people to come alongside and help you with potential problems or issues that there might be. Something that I also say all the time is that I can't solve a problem that I do not know exists, right? If I don't know that you're having an issue with something, if I don't know that there's something that I'm doing that's frustrating, hurting, or causing a divide in our relationship, how can I change my actions and start doing something different that is going to ensure that we stay in close community and that we have a loving, committed, close, resilient, strong relationship? I can't do it until I have those things expressed to me. And people that love you and care about you, they want to respect and want to honor the boundaries you set, but you have to set it for them, and then you have to allow them to give feedback and to comment and to work with you to ensure that, A, if there's a boundary that they think is unreasonable, that you can talk through that with them and you can kind of try and get to the bottom of where that boundary may have come from. But B, you will help them know how to solve problems, how to ward off problems from ever becoming a problem by understanding you better. So when expressing a boundary, I think you need to be sure that you're not communicating, hey, I'm right, and if you don't agree or don't do this, you are wrong. You're simply saying, hey, this is something for me. It is by nature very personal. And again, if someone wants to be in a relationship with you, they need to be willing to respect your boundaries. But if they say, hey, I don't agree with that boundary, I don't like that boundary, I don't want to follow that boundary, that does not make them wrong. And if you go into a discussion of boundaries with someone and you create this moral polarity between you being right and them being wrong, you're not going to have your boundaries received very well, and you're setting yourself up for a time of a lot of very unproductive conflict. Boundaries need to be expressed with love. They need to be expressed with clarity. They need to be expressed with examples, if possible, about how this has actually played out, worked or not worked in your own life. And you need to also ensure that you are not expressing a boundary as a moral absolute, that you are right, and if this boundary is not followed, that someone else is wrong. You need to stand strong that is a boundary for you, but you're not trying to create a sense of conflict with this person by making them wrong and telling them that they are wrong if they do not hold and understand and follow the exact same boundaries that you have. So even though I've got a lot of reasons why I think boundaries are very helpful and important for you, I almost think there are more of why they're helpful for your partner. So expressing them to your partner and allowing your partner to express them back to you is incredibly important. Again, some of the same things are true. It allows you to get to know them. It allows you to understand potential problems that are there before they become an issue. It also just allows you to really show up for someone. In many relationships, unfortunately, people aren't going to care about honoring and following boundaries. But if you are truly in a relationship that's full of love, that's full of connection, that you want to maintain and protect, you are given tangible ways to show up for someone by honoring their boundaries. And again, if they don't know the boundary is there, they're not able to show up and demonstrate in a very active, a very tangible way how much they love and care about you and care about preserving and protecting your relationship. They also let people know the real you, right? So again, with checking in on yourself and figuring out what you need, what works for you and what doesn't, you are able to express a much deeper level of understanding. You're able to go deep, you're able to pull back some of the onion layers, and you allow people that care about you to understand and really get to know you. And another thing that I think is very interesting that boundaries do is it will allow you to cover many times the why behind the what, right? So normally boundaries aren't just randomly thrown in place. They normally come from a past. They normally come from a painful experience where you're trying to protect yourself. And so maybe that boundary is needed, or maybe that boundary is a knee-jerk whiplash reaction to something very negative that happened. And with a loving partner, with a loving friend, you can work through that and even be willing and able to release a restrictive boundary that's really more hurting you than hurting the people around you, even though they may be wanting to follow it. So give the people that love you the opportunity to show up and to get to know the real you and to help you work through areas of pain and hardship in your life. So you're wanting to have a boundary setting session. Again, you need to do it with love. You need to do it without accusing. You need to do it without creating moral absolutes one way or the other. But another thing that I think is very powerful to do if you want to set boundaries for your partner is to lead by letting them lead. So ask them the question. Say, hey, I really care about you, or I really care about your feelings. I want to know what's working and what isn't working for you. Can you tell me areas that you need me to respect and be more mindful of in our relationship, because I want to understand you and I want to do things that prevent pain from forming in the relationship. Lead by letting them lead. It's a powerful, powerful thing that I see as a benefit whenever you're introducing something difficult or that has the potential to cause hurt or pain in your relationship. Another thing that's important when expressing and sharing boundaries is to not demand a boundary that you are not willing to follow yourself. We are not trying to create hypocrisy here. We do not want to be hypocrites. So if you are asking for your partner to honor a boundary for you, you should be willing to honor that same boundary back for them. This doesn't mean that all the boundaries have to be, well, I want this, so I want this, so I want this, so I want this. You can have differences, but if you are asking for a boundary from someone else, you're asking for them to honor a boundary for you, you need to be willing to say, hey, listen, I'm going to respect this if this is something that's important to you as well. So what if a boundary is violated? You've thought you had clarity, you thought you expressed something, you thought they had agreement, there was understanding, but then something has been done to violate and hurt a boundary that you've set. What do you do? Well, first off, you need to work past where responding with unbridled emotion. The first knee-jerk reaction is going to be anger, is going to be pain, is going to be hurt, and those are natural and those are okay, but those are not profitable or beneficial emotions when you're trying to work toward understanding or a positive conclusion, or just a conclusion that allows you to take the right next step. Control the emotion, feel the emotion, let the emotion pass through, and then move forward. And after you're calmer and you can have a reasonable discussion, you want to seek for clarity and understanding. You need to understand the why behind the what. Was there something you didn't express as clearly as you thought? Was there ambiguity created? You really want to understand the set of circumstances and try to put yourself in your partner's shoes, or for the person who violated the boundary, to understand where they're coming from. Again, this doesn't mean you have to agree with it's okay that your boundary was violated, but you want to move forward with all of the facts, with a full picture. Getting pigeonholed in your perspective is not going to help you do that. So you want understanding and clarity. I also think that, again, the why behind the what's important. Was this something that was done because someone was thoughtless, careless, they were selfish, they didn't really think about your feelings, and they should have honored and respected you better? Or was this someone really did understand the boundary and then just simply decided that they didn't care about the boundary? If it's malicious, that is a much bigger issue, in my opinion, than someone that just, hey, you didn't think through, that was thoughtless, I really wish you had cared about me and thought through how this would make me feel in this circumstance. But really try to understand the why behind the what. And after you've done that, now you've got a full picture that can allow you to move forward. And sometimes boundaries are violated, and enforcing the boundary means that the relationship has to change. Hey, I expressed this boundary, I needed this from you, you violated it, you were unwilling to follow it. We need to have a change in how this relationship is handled. It's not a punishment, it is you saying, hey, I need to protect and honor and love myself. I do not want to tell myself that I'm unworthy to have my boundaries followed. So expressing them and then following up by saying, hey, you violated a boundary, there needs to be change, is totally reasonable. But I would also challenge you to think through the times that you've probably violated other people's boundaries. I know I have. So I really tried to respond with love, to respond with understanding, to give people the benefit of the doubt, and to really respond with forgiveness. And that doesn't mean you have to do it forever, but it does mean that many times the strength of the relationship, being with someone who seems to be apologetic, who seems to try to want to understand how they messed up, that wants to take active steps to do better, that's willing to own their mistake, that's someone that I want to try at all costs to stay in community with. And I want to work through mistakes that they're going to make, because I know that I'm going to be making mistakes as well. Absolutely does not mean that it's okay, does not mean that it's right, does not mean that you should enforce your boundaries, but I really think many times with people that really love us and care about us, giving them the benefit of the doubt, working to a better container after a painful circumstance, after a boundary's been violated, is probably the best course of action. I hope this discussion of boundaries was helpful. I want you to do something for me. Right now in the comments, write, Christopher, I will set honest and loving boundaries in my life. This is something that we do as a love to someone we care about, allows them to respond with love to us, and will massively elevate the strength of your relationships. Can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, stay awesome.